Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about how to draft a co-founders agreement. Before I move on to discuss the key terms and drafting tips, let's first figure out what is a co-founders agreement. Now, a co-founders agreement regulates relationship between two or more co-founders. It is typically entered into before one starts an entity. So, for example, if two or more people want to come together and start an entity, such as a company or a partnership or an LLP, it's always advisable that you enter into a co founders agreement before you commence the business. It's always better because it avoids disputes, it regulates the relationship between various co founders and keeps the expectations, roles, and responsibilities clear and realistic. It is a legally binding contract, hence, no co founder can actually go back on the promises he or she has made in the agreement. Now, key clauses in a co founders agreement. First is description of the entity. Now, what kind of entity are you setting up? Is it a company? Is it a LLP? Is it a partnership, etc.? This needs to be clearly spelled out in a co-founders agreement. Now, area of operation. This is also very important, as what are the goods or services to be offered? What is the nature of the business that you are entering into? That also needs to be mentioned in a co-founders agreement. Now, for example, if you diversify later on, it's always better to amend the agreement and add any diversified nature of business or any new thing which the business starts offering into the co-founders agreement. Now, ownership structure. This is also very important as it spells out what is the ownership stake of the various co-founders in the particular business. So a capital table is generally included in a co-founders agreement. This capital table contains the percentage of shares owned by each and every co-founder. Now, this stake may change later on. For instance, if one partner wants to buy off the other partner, or some partner wants to sell off his share to a third entity. In such cases, the capital table should be regularly updated. The co-founders agreement should also be amended in order to reflect this change continuously. Now, initial capital. So when two or more people come together to start a company or a business, they would definitely need an initial amount of money, which would be the initial capital in this case. Now, what money is one bringing to the table should also be clearly included in the co-founders agreement. So, for instance, if there are two people who are entering into a business and A gets $1,000 and B gets 5,000 rupees, now their shares would typically correspond to the amount of money they are investing in the company. So, this amount of 1,000 and 5,000 should be clearly written down in the agreement so that later on no disputes arise. Now, what are the additional contributions? Now, maybe later on some partner invests some more money into the business. So all those money investments should be tracked and they should be kept added to the co-founders agreement as the time goes on. So the co-founders agreement should be amended in order to reflect the additional contributions by the co-founders as well. Now, if there are any changes in the capital being invested, that also needs to be updated. Now, sometimes what happens is that if there are two people who are coming together to form a company, now, for example, there's a person who wants to set up a company. Now, he wants to develop an app, for instance. He doesn't have the necessary skills for it. What he is going to do is, he is going to bring on another person and tell him that I am going to give you 20% of the shares. You develop this app for me. Now, that other person who comes with certain skill set. He doesn't really invest money into the startup, but he brings his skills along with it. So that kind of an arrangement can also be done. But if that is the case, whatever is being given to that particular person, if it's shareholding, it's equity stake, it's any future ESOP, etc., all those need to be clearly mentioned in the co-founders agreement. So it's not essential that all co-founders need to bring in money per se. They can bring in their skill set as well. But if they are receiving anything in return for the same, everything should be clearly mentioned in the co-founders agreement. Now, roles and responsibilities. This is a very important clause because one of the main reasons behind entering into a co-founders agreement is that the duties, obligations, responsibilities, rights, everything of the co-founders should be clearly laid down in the agreement. It should be affixed in a written form so that later on no one really retracts from it and say that it was not my responsibility to do, or I have more rights than you. So everything should be clearly noted down in a written form and signed to and agreed by the co-founders of the company. So specific roles should be assigned to each co-founders, and these roles and responsibilities should be mentioned in the agreement. Again, duties and rights should be clearly demarcated. There should not be an overlap between the duties and the obligations and rights of one or more co-founders. This is because there would be two centers of power which may be created, and this may lead to dispute. Now, for example, if one co-founder looks at the HR function of the business. Now, for example, if this person looks at the HR function of the business and another co-founder is also given the same responsibility. Now, this may lead to collective decision making. This may also lead to inconsistent decision making. So these things should be avoided so that in the future there are no disputes that arise. Now, confidentiality and intellectual property. This is a very important clause for a co-founders agreement. Now, all information which is directly or indirectly related to the business should be maintained as confidential information. Now, directly or indirectly, because it's a very expansive term and it would cover almost everything which is either arising out of the business or connected to the business. So because it's a co-founders agreement and your co-founder may be privy to a lot of proprietary information, it's very, very important to protect your trade secrets, your any kind of confidential information, your client lists. There could be a host of confidential information which your co-founder is privy to. So the definition of confidential information in a co-founders agreement should be very, very expansive and exhaustive. Now, non-disclosure. So a confidentiality clause should always have a non-disclosure term attached to it, that no confidential agreement should be disclosed without the authority of the company. Now, it's always advisable to enter into a separate non-disclosure agreement as well with your co-founder. This provides additional protection over and above the confidentiality clause mentioned in the co-founders agreement. Now, the applicability should be beyond the termination of the agreement. So once the co-founder leaves, he would say, I am free from the obligations of the agreement, and now I can disclose whatever information I came to know of while I was part of that particular business. Now, that should not be done. Therefore, the confidentiality clause or the non-disclosure agreement should be applicable beyond the termination of the agreement. Now, if there's any intellectual property which has been developed by the company, it should always be held in the name of the company and not in the name of the co-founders. Now, this should also be clearly mentioned in the agreement that the co-founder would not be the proprietor of the intellectual property, and intellectual property would always be held in the name of the company. Now, non-compete and non-solicitation. So again, this is another problem which typically arises amongst co-founders, that a co-founder left the entity, he went ahead and started a rival business. Now, this person would be in the know-how of all your confidential information, your clients, your employees, everybody. So therefore, it's very, very important to have a non-compete clause, both in the co-founders agreement and in the separate, maybe an employment agreement or another agreement which you would have signed with the co-founder. So it's very, very important to have a non-compete clause which is applicable to the co-founder. Now, again, this non-compete clause can be for a longer period, but enforceability is always a problem. You cannot tell them not to start a rival business like, as long as they are in the business, as long as they are in the business of that particular service or good. So there has to be a reasonable time period attached to it, which could be anything ranging from 1 to 2 years. Now, typically proprietary information is protected. So non-compete clause cannot be enforced per se. Its enforceability has always been a slippery slope. But if the person leaving the company has some proprietary information and you want to prevent them from disclosing that proprietary information, then you can enforce a non-compete clause. So because a co-founder is in the know of proprietary information of a company, it can be slightly easier to enforce a non-compete against a co-founder. Now, a non-solicitation clause. So a non-solicitation clause prevents the co-founder from soliciting your employees, your clients, customers, etc. This is also important because if you are a young company, then maybe you have around 10 to 15 employees, for example, and out of which your co-founder leaves the company, takes 6 of your employees along with him, maybe 6 of your most valuable employees along with him, and then you are left with half the business what you started earlier. So that is why this is extremely important to have a non-solicitation clause in the co-founders agreement. Similarly, your co-founder is in the know-how of the clients that you have, and he may try to solicit your clients as well. Therefore, a non-solicitation clause is an absolutely essential clause to have in a co-founders agreement. Now, termination or exit option. So it's very important to have an exit option in a co-founders agreement. Otherwise, you or your co-founder may find it very difficult to part ways. So it can either be a term-based termination clause wherein you say that, okay, we are going to be co-founder of a company for the next 5 years and let's see how it goes. And once the 5 years elapse, we are going to again discuss the terms, renegotiate, renew, and then move on. So that could be one thing. So if after 5 years you find that the two of you are not getting along or you are not satisfied with the work of your co-founder, you guys can just put the agreement to an end and not renew it. Now, default based, what if one of the co-founders actually breaches the terms, or maybe he's taking kickbacks or he's supplying some confidential information to some other company? There could be a range of activities which he may be engaged in which can lead to breach of the contract. So based on that breach, you can also terminate the contract and end the co-founder relationship. Now, termination simpliciter, both the parties should have a right to terminate the agreement on giving a prior notice of a stipulated period of time, which typically can range between 2 to 6 months. Now, return of confidential and proprietary information. So again, once the relationship of co-founders comes to an end and the agreement is terminated, it is always better to ask the leaving co-founder to return all the confidential and proprietary information they may be in the possession of. So having this clause ensures that the co-founder does not leave with any confidential or proprietary information which rightfully belongs to the company. Now, dispute settlement, like all other agreements in a co-founders agreement too, you should have a dispute settlement clause. So the most preferred method of dispute settlement would be arbitration. So again, the venue should be mutually decided, the arbitrator should be mutually decided, and both the parties should sit together and amicably resolve the dispute. Mediation again is also a good choice of dispute settlement in a co-founders agreement. Litigation should be taken at last resort because litigation may be a long drawn process, but it is always preferable to mention all methods of dispute settlement in a co-founders agreement. Hopefully you understood what are the key terms of a co-founders agreement. If you have any doubts, please feel free to reach me on LinkedIn or leave a comment on this video. Thank you. Stay safe, stay home.